The West, especially the United States of America, likes to think about itself as a young culture, young civilization, young ideas, and so on. China, on the contrary, likes to portray themselves as eternal, very, very old, and experienced, and wise because of it. But it could be the other way around. It's only our mindset, it's not reality. For instance, you could, for instance, take an example of the Chinese Republicans of 1911. 1911, at the beginning of the 20th century. From that moment on, there are no emperors, just presidents, the first secretaries, and so on. So you have a breach, you have a discontinuity in civilization, so to speak. This is the mindset of the West. Okay, we like to portray ourselves as new, that liberalism and enlightenment started a new civilization. But really, was it like that? I don't think so. The West was always more individualistic. The approach towards living, towards life, was always more individualistic and thus more liberal than in other parts of the world. And so it wasn't, when we look at the civilization of the West, we have Crete, we have Athens, we have Rome. Rome is conquering Greece. Rome is conquered by the Ostrogoths. The Goths are creating medieval Italy and medieval Europe, and the other tribes are creating medieval Europe, and not really throwing everything Roman into the basket. No. It was all preserved, more or less. Then we have the Reformation and the Enlightenment. It's the same civilization all the way. But we like to think that it's a new civilization, that the new civilization started with Pilgrim Fathers or with Founding Fathers. The Americans like to think that we have only 200 years old. We are only 200 years old, or 200 or 400 years old, and already so many successes. Yes, it's a funny way to look on your culture, but when you can compare it to Chinese Republicans from the beginning of the 20th century and the Chinese nationalists from that era, and you would have the same approach, which is the same idiotic approach. Now it's an interesting mindset, because we are like, we West, we young, we inexperienced. Then we have as a main opponent now emerges China. It's our main opponent, emerges China, which is old. But China is really more or less equally old as the West is. It's an idiotic approach to think that China is somewhat older. Okay, you can measure to some extent the continuity and the discontinuity. For instance, a Chinese citizen, when he is looking upon some ancient text written in Chinese, he wouldn't understand the people who would be speaking it aloud, and he wouldn't be understanding the spoken language of the time. But he understands because of the graphic images, because of the letters, he can understand more or less the sense of this ancient treaty. And we don't have this treaty, and when we look at our ancient treaties, especially when they are in Greek. But we have some continuity when the Chinese have discontinuity. The Chinese don't have emperors anymore. They don't have the mandate of heaven. They don't have this. And we have our senators, we have our democracy, and so on. So where is continuity, where is discontinuity? It's a very tricky question. Maybe our mindset is good. Maybe our hunch is good, that the more experienced, older civilization always wins. But don't worry, West is old, really old. When you look at, for instance, Aztecs versus Hernan Cortés, yes, in the 16th century. So it was really a battle between the pre-Columbian civilization of Aztec people, who were basically as old as our Middle Ages, so not very old, right? Not at all. Against the Greco-Spaniards, because the first civilization in Europe was ancient, right? So really, who Aztecs had against themselves were Greco-Spaniards. Crete, Athens, Rome, Spain. Then this is the This is the good approach to this problem, I would say. This is the continuity. So the continuity of Cortés was longer. His civilization experience